Hello friends, good afternoon and welcome to EduSet Live Lectures. Dear friends, as you know that we have started a series on religion, culture and society in Indian history, and today we are conducting yet another lecture in the same series. In today's lecture, we will try to understand Gandhi, Nehru and Ambedkar's views on religion. Also, we will try to see secularism in Indian constitution. To discuss this topic, we have with us our subject expert, Ms. Nuti Namita. Ms. Namita has been associated with Delhi University for past 10 years in various teaching capacities. Without further ado, I would like to welcome ma'am to our studios and request her to start the lecture. Welcome, ma'am.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. This is a part of the series on religions, culture and society in Indian history, and my topic for today is Gandhi, Nehru and Ambedkar on religion. A kind of comparative analysis would be attempted to discuss about their views on religion and caste, and see how they are contradicting each other, and in various ways they also coincide with each other. Ambedkar, Gandhi and Nehru were the stalwarts of Indian society, and they played a very, very vital role in making of independent India. All the three leaders, they were gifted with exceptional qualities of leadership and intellectual acumen, and they derived part of their education from foreign lands. Gandhi did his law in London, whereas Nehru in Cambridge, and Ambedkar he did his education from America. They were all mostly brought up in the cities, in the sense that their political life and their action was connected with the cities. They were urban centric, and most of their lives were spent in the cities. All the three were also very, very important contributions towards building of independent India in different ways. Gandhi, Nehru and Ambedkar were also influenced by Western philosophy in varying degrees. Gandhi, for example, he was initially affected by Western philosophy and thoughts. However, he also developed his own philosophy, amalgamating the positive aspects of Indian and Western political thoughts. Nehru, till his end, remained a committed loyalist to Western ideas of liberalism and democracy. And later in his life, when in 1927 he visited the Soviet Union for the first time, he also was very much affected by socialism. Ambedkar, on the other hand, was influenced by the harsh realities of living a life of Dalit in Indian social system. So all were different in different ways, influenced by Western philosophies. Ambedkar, though, was also a liberal democrat. He was quite convinced of and also very much admired the principles of equality, fraternity and freedom for all, and therefore his anti-caste movement and anti-untouchability movement would reflect these ideals as well. All the three leaders, Gandhi, Nehru and Ambedkar, have been relentlessly compared with each other. Their achievements, their contributions, etc., have been scaled minutely by academicians over a period of time. Various articles, a plethora of articles and books have been devoted to these leaders of national stature. Gandhi elicited interest in his life, in his thoughts, in his action and in his work after his death amongst the academicians, whereas Nehru, he was very popular amongst the scholars during his lifetime. But after his death, the kind of dedicated articles and books on Nehru petered down considerably. His creative achievements and his have been applauded to a great extent by academicians and scholars also. However, his monumental failures have also not gone unnoticed. There needs to the kind of Ambedkar's thesis, on the other hand, requires more research. Academicians and scholars need to delve deeply into Ambedkar's contributions and his thoughts and his philosophies, and write more about him. His area of research has been very less compared to either Nehru or Gandhi. It is a monumental task to compare these three leaders, Ambedkar, Gandhi and Nehru. Although all these three leaders were born in the cities, however, they experienced differently while growing up, and their experiences in the childhood also shaped their thoughts and ideas to a great extent in the later years of their lives. Many facets of their lives were different from each other, whereas Gandhi was born in a traditional Hindu family of middle class family in Porbandar, which was quite religious family, and especially his mother was very religious in that sense, and he imbibed the values which his family propagated of intermixing and so he became very eclectic in his outlook. Nehru, on the other hand, he had grown up in a upper middle class family. His father, Motilal Nehru, was a very renowned and rich lawyer in Allahabad, and he was very Western in his outlook, and therefore Nehru, when he saw within his family that the women folk in his family, for example his mother, she was the one who actually took care of the religious ceremonies within the family, and she was and the other women of the family really took care of these functions. So he grew up to be not so connected with religion so much. And of course his Western, he was brought up in a Western atmosphere in the sense that his father, Motilal Nehru, he was very, very insistent on observing Western way of life at home also. For example, the dining procedure and the ceremony for eating was typically Western in ways and content. Even the food which was prepared, there were two kitchens actually in Motilal Nehru's household. One kitchen which prepared Western cuisine, catering to Motilal Nehru, and the other kitchen which catered to Nehru's mother, which was Indian, totally Indian. So he grew up in that kind of family, and of course his education, which in London, in England, in Cambridge, also filled in him the ideas of Western thoughts and Western philosophies to a great extent. Ambedkar was born in a Dalit family, and a lower middle class Dalit family, and from his childhood itself, Ambedkar faced a lot of discriminations as for being an untouchable. Okay, so while in the school also and in various other day-to-day activities of Ambedkar realized that he was born an untouchable, and it was a curse to be an untouchable in Indian society. So although he managed, and through his grit and hard work, and to of course also his intellectual, very gifted intellectual acumen, he could get scholarship from the Raja of Baroda, and he went abroad to America to undertake education, and he came back, he became a lawyer, and he came back to India. So in that sense, Ambedkar was influenced by Western philosophies of equality and fraternity and freedom, and he was very much disillusioned by the Hindu system, which propagated the social stratification in India, and brought about such conditions as untouchability. Okay, so this is the kind of upbringing, and these three leaders had a lot to do with their later on evolution of ideas and thoughts and their activities in the political sphere. There is now I will concentrate on Gandhi and his understanding of religion. Religion was central to Gandhi. It was a fundamental thing for Gandhi, be it in all his facets of life, be it in his thoughts, in his daily activities, everything. Religion played an important role for Gandhi, and he felt and he believed in the fact that religion led to an ethical and spiritual way of life. So, and he regarded politics as applied religion. So for Gandhi, intermingling of religion and politics was necessary to elevate politics from a basic constitution to a spiritual level, which would lead to spiritualistic politics and would make politics more moral and ethical. So in that sense, Gandhi encouraged the idea of religion and politics being integrated together, and of course he has been criticized for this by many scholars and by many academicians as well. And also Gandhi was a devout Hindu. He was born in a Hindu family, and he remained throughout his life till his end a firm believer in Hinduism. He was also a great believer in the assimilative and tolerant capacities and potential of Hinduism. He believed that Hinduism is the only religion which had the scope of assimilating positive aspects of other religions and then integrate it within Hinduism itself. And however, although being a devout Hindu, he was not unaware of the dangerous practices and dangerous social evils associated with Hinduism. So he criticized all the unnecessary dogmas, superstitions, institutions, and rituals associated with Hinduism. He was not happy with those, and he criticized them, and especially the institution of untouchability came under severe attack by Gandhi, and throughout his life he fought for the upliftment and emancipation of the untouchables in India. In fact, he wanted and fought for the abolition of untouchability in India. He said in 1925 in his autobiography that if untouchability was a part of Hinduism, it could only be a rotten path. It had to go, or Hinduism itself could rot. Okay, so he was that concerned about this institution of Hinduism. However, what he also felt that the emancipation of the untouchables should happen within the folds of Hinduism. So he did not advocate the conversion of the untouchables to other religions for their emancipation. And he was also not prepared for the abolition of the caste system altogether. So although Gandhi was very, very clear about his dislike and abhorrence of untouchability, he was ready to go a step towards its abolition, but not towards abolition of the caste system itself. Gandhi was also very much critical of those institutions of Hinduism which brought about sort of gender inequality. For example, the system of parda, the system of child marriage, the inhuman treatment to widows, etc. He fought against these institutions as well, and of course animal cruelty was totally abhorrent to Gandhi. Okay. And as far as religion is concerned, Gandhi also believed in assimilating the positive aspects of different religions, and he was very much impressed by the ideas of love, ideas of non-violence propagated by Christianity in the Bible, especially the New Testament. And also he was impressed by the egalitarian spirit of the Quran. Fasting for Gandhi, fasting and prayers for Gandhi were two important pillars for expressing religiosity for Gandhi. So he believed in fasting for moral cleansing of the mind and of the body, and also prayers. So in his ashrams, every day there used to be prayers, meetings, etc. And he was always there for that. Okay, so this was a very important aspect of Gandhi's view about religion. And Nehru and his religion. Nehru, as we discussed earlier, he was born in an different Western outlook family, and he was in a kind of a situation where his father was not really into observance of religious rituals and practices, and therefore he grew up to be indifferent to religion. So Nehru was indifferent to religion to a great extent. He can also be called an agnostic. Okay, so he grew up with a Western outlook, and he was influenced by the ideologies of liberalism, democracy, socialism, etc. Okay, so for him, religion was not so important, and especially for Nehru, intermixing of religion with politics was an absolute anathema. So he wanted he was of the view that a wall of separation should be erected between religion and the state, and there shouldn't be any kind of intermixing. He felt that and of course he was aware that the large population of India were deeply religious, okay, and therefore he believed that religion should be confined within an individual's household, within his individual's capacity, and it should not spill over at the state level. And it should be guided by personal choice and not by the choice of the state. Okay, so he was not really very comfortable with religion being advocated, or intervention of state in religious matters. Even though Gandhi and Nehru were very close to each other, of course Gandhi had chosen Nehru as his heir, still Nehru was very baffled by this Gandhi's penchant for fasting or for socio-political reasons. He did not understand Gandhi's viewpoint, and he was puzzled why Gandhi wanted religion to be brought into the political realm, and he really did not agree with Gandhi on this point of view at all. Ambedkar was, of course, was also a believer in religion like Gandhi. Okay, so of course he had gone through very bitter experiences as a child in his growing up years, and by being an untouchable, and he had gone through many discriminations while growing up and later in life as well. But still he believed in religion in the sense that he was practical enough. Of course, he thought that the large number of his followers, or the large number of Indians in India, they were deeply and devoutly religious people, and to deprive them of religion, the anchor. Religion also acts as an anchor and an umbrella of protection, and to deprive the people of India of this kind of anchor and an umbrella, overarching umbrella, that would not serve his purpose of emancipating the untouchables. So he was practical enough to realize that, and of course he also believed that religion per se is important for human beings. Okay, so he was affected by this institution of untouchability. He was very much disillusioned with Hinduism, and its unequal social stratification which propagated untouchability, and of course he fought throughout his life to abolish and uplift the life of the untouchables, to abolish untouchability and to uplift the life of the untouchables. He was very much concerned, and he wanted the untouchables to rise as together and to fight against this abhorrent system of discrimination due to being an untouchable. So he was very clear on that point, but he was, and then he advocated that abolition of untouchability would not serve the purpose, because still the caste system would stay, and as long as the caste system stays, the discriminatory policies of the outlook of Hinduism would also stay. And therefore, what Ambedkar advocated was the abolition of the caste system itself. In fact, Ambedkar went ahead and renounced Hinduism altogether, but he was practical enough to adopt another religion, that is Buddhism, which he felt, Buddhism which was closer to Hinduism in some ways, but he felt that Buddhism was the only religion which would cater to the needs of the outcasts in the Indian society. It would bring about equality in status and stature amongst the untouchables only through Buddhism. Okay, so that's why he adopted Buddhism later on, and he renounced untouchability. As far as comparison between Gandhi and Ambedkar is concerned, we have to first of all take note of the fact that both Gandhi and Ambedkar played a complementary role rather than an antagonistic role in abolishing untouchability, the practice of untouchability. So both in their own ways were social reformers also, and both in their own ways were fighting against the social evil of untouchability, for the emancipation of the Dalits, for the emancipation of the Harijans, as Gandhi liked to call the Dalits, Harijans meaning people of God, okay, so son of God. Okay, so he was very much, both were concerned with uplifting the status of the untouchables in the Hindu society. However, they also confronted each other because in some points they did not agree, and their ideas varied from each other perceptibly. For example, Gandhi was not really comfortable with the idea of abolishing caste system altogether. He was ready and prepared to go ahead and abolish untouchability, but not the caste system per se, whereas Ambedkar fought for the abolition of caste system also. Okay, and on this point they came confronted each other. The other point where they clashed once again was in the 1930s. 1930 was the time when Ambedkar came on the political scene of India in a big way. Okay, and it was 1930 when the helm of political freedom struggle was firmly in the hands of Gandhi. Okay, so when they came together, the issue of separate electorates came up, and because Ambedkar demanded for separate electorates for the Dalits, for the untouchables, Gandhi was absolutely opposed to this move, and he went on a fast, Yaravada fast, unto death in 1932, and Ambedkar had to comply to the wishes of Gandhi. So this was the first instance of direct confrontation between Gandhi and Ambedkar. Okay, and this convinced Ambedkar that political power was so necessary for them to be uplifted. And as Ramchandra Guha says, Gandhi and Nehru together made India democratic and secular. Gandhi and Ambedkar together made Hindus recognize the evils and horrors of untouchability. Nehru and Ambedkar gave India its constitution with fundamental rights of equality and universal suffrage. All three in their own ways, at times in opposition, but mostly together, led to the creation of modern India. Thank you. Secularism and Indian Constitution. This is the second part in the series on Indian society and culture and religion in Indian history. Secularism is one of the problematic issues of contemporary Indian nation. The term secularism, which is often translated as Dharma Nirapekshata, has its origin in Europe. It was during the 17th century, after the 30 Years' War in Europe, that the term secularization was first used to transfer the properties of the church to the princes. And it was during the Enlightenment age in the 18th century Europe that it was viewed to replace religion and myths with religious and mythical view of the world with scientific and technological industrial view. Europe then brought about a differentiation or separation of the political sphere from the religious cultural sphere, and thus those sectors of society and culture which had earlier been dominated by religion were now brought under the domain of the political and secular system. This is known as secularization. The term secularism thus has been borrowed from the West and then applied in India. Of course, there are a few variations as far as the term secularism is applied in the Indian context. It is very important to note that when the Constitution was promulgated in January of 1950, the preamble of the Indian Constitution did not contain the word secular. Okay? The preamble of the Indian Constitution only contained India as being sovereign democratic republic. It was only after the 42nd Amendment of 1976 that the word secular was inserted into the preamble of the Indian Constitution. Now the preamble was read like this: sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. However, it is also noteworthy that not a single article of the Constitution was needed to be amended for the Constitution to become secular, because it is felt that several provisions within the Constitution left no one in doubt about the secular nature of the Indian Constitution. In fact, the Supreme Court bench also ruled that secularism is a constitutive feature of the basic structure of the Constitution. In fact, secularism was implicit in the Constitution from the very beginning. It was made explicit only after the 42nd Amendment. Secularism, as we know, the term as it was used in Europe meant separation of state and religion, and also the dilution of the role of religion in political sphere. Okay. One very important variant which Indian Constitution adopted from its Western counterpart as far as secularism is concerned was because of the multi-religious society of India. Since many religions have existed in India since so many centuries, so what was meant by secularism in India was, apart from a relative separation of state and religion, it also meant equal respect for all religions. Sarva dharma samabhav. Okay? And one more addition, you can say, or maybe a variant of this separation, this relative separation was derived from the liberal secular nature of the Constitution, which was based on the concepts of equality, fraternity and freedom for all its citizens. So it was because of this principles on which the Constitution was based that state intervention was required against such practices of social evils like Devadasi system, like child marriage, and also untouchability, etc. Okay, so this was a relative separation of reformist intervention of state is based on the premise of the relative separation of political and religious spheres. Such a relative separation of religious and political sphere is clearly seen in the articles 25 and 26 of the Constitution. According to the Article 25 of the Constitution, which gives freedom of conscience and the right to freely profess, practice and propagate religion, and which at the same time empower the state to make any law for the sake of public order, morality and health, and for regulating or restricting any economic, financial, political or other secular activity which may be associated with religious practice. So, it is noteworthy to see that conversion of people from one religion to another religion was guaranteed as a fundamental right in India because of the word propagate. But the Supreme Court has made it clear that the conversion to another religion, that is the fundamental right, is available only if it is not brought about through force or fraud. Very important clause of the Article 25 is clause 2b of the Article 25, and it says it provides protection to laws passed for social welfare and reform. So, again the kind of interventionist reforms which the state could undertake for the protection of people and for social welfare was protected through this article and the clause 2b of Article 25. So, for example, in the 1950s, Hindu code, which consisted of laws for upholding the rights of women, etc., in Hindu minorities, Hindu Marriage, Hindu Succession Act and Hindu Adoption and Maintenance, were facilitated by the above provision in Article 25 2b of the Constitution. It is also under this provision of the Constitution that the laws giving better rights to Muslim women in respect of marriage, divorce, adoption, etc., can also be passed. It is hoped that the enlightened Muslim opinion will be persuaded to support such laws. The principle that the people of all religion in India will have equal rights and they will not be faced with any kind of discrimination by the state on the grounds of religion is provided under Articles 15 and 16 of the Constitution. It is said that the state shall not discriminate against any citizens on the grounds only of religion, race, caste, place of birth, sex, etc. Article 16(2) says that no citizen shall, only on the grounds of religion, etc., be ineligible for or discriminated against in respect of any employment or office of the state. Article 17 of the Constitution outlaws untouchability. So, untouchability is constitutional, it's constitutionally prohibited and it is outlawed by the Constitution of Article 17. The two more important articles which deal with secularism in the Constitution are Articles 27 and 28, which says that no person shall be compelled to pay any taxes, the proceeds of which are specifically appropriated in payment of expenses for the promotion or maintenance of any particular religion or religious denomination. Article 28 says no religious instruction is to be provided in educational institutions which are wholly maintained by the state funds. Now, this was how secularism was inserted and applied in the Indian Constitution. The provisions in the Constitution itself incorporated the spirit of secularism. Of course, they were a bit different from the Western counterpart. However, the concept of secularism has come under many challenges and criticisms over a period of time, and this is because of the various interpretations of secularism by different political factions. Nana Deshmukh, in his article Our Secularism Needs Rethinking, 1990, has insisted on a distinction between positive secularism and pseudo-secularism. According to him, the right-wing political parties like the BJP believe in positive secularism, which means to them justice for all and discrimination against none. They feel, and he also goes on to say that the right-wing parties feel that the pseudo-secularism which is associated with the left central parties like the Congress, it is misused by them to denigrate the Hindu categories and symbols, that is the majority categories and symbols, and to justify pampering of the minority. So, this is what Nana Deshmukh has to say, and the kind of problematic which secularism has evoked in the last 20 or 30 years. Okay. However, of course, his interpretation has to be taken with a pinch of salt. It has to be, secularism also means assimilative because of the plural religious cultural systems existing in India. More assimilative policies need to be followed so that it leads to peace and harmony amongst the people, and it does not lead to the division of the country as such. There are intellectuals also who have also criticized the Western and modern concept of secularism as applied in India. Intellectuals like Partha Chatterjee, T.N. Madan, Ashish Nandi have criticized different aspects of secularism as existing in India, and they go on. For example, Nandi, he says that Nehruvian, he criticizes the Nehruvian secularism. He says that it is a part and parcel of a bigger package of scientific growth, assimilative nation building and security, and it also demands its members to dilute their religious faith in an effort to build nations. Okay. However, this kind of secularism does not, Ashish Nandi says, that this kind of secularism does not guarantee protection to them against the sufferings inflicted by the state itself. Okay. So, Nandi goes on to say that Western rational scientific secularism, which Nehru sought to impose on the Indian society, has failed either to eliminate religion from politics or to promote greater religious tolerance. So, he is not really comfortable with the Western and scientific concept or modern concept of secularism being applied in the Indian context, and he goes on to say that it has not really led to the end of communalism, it has not led to more religious tolerance, etc. And so he goes on to say that the pre-modern religious assimilative character of state, which Akbar followed, and for example Ashoka followed, and also what Gandhi advocated, needs to be followed. Partha Chatterjee also finds the ideology of secularism not an adequate or appropriate political perspective for meeting the challenge of Hindu majoritarianism. Secularism in India, according to him, has led to separate public political sphere from the religion, but on the other hand, the reformist intervention of the state in the socio-religious sphere has happened, but it has happened mostly in the Hindu society. Okay? For example, he notes that the temple entry reforms or the reforms of the personal laws of the Hindus, which serve the social interests and the public interests only of the Hindus or the majority religious community rather than of all the citizens, he says that it cannot then claim to be based on non-religious grounds of justification. Okay, so he is of the view that if the state is intervening in the religious sphere, but only in the sphere of the majority community, for example, reforming the personal laws and the social evils associated with Hinduism, that is not really intervention or the separation or the relative separation of state and religion when it is targeted at just one section of the community. And therefore, it has led to Hindu majoritarianism, that the kind of crisis we are facing these days is the result of that kind of policies being followed since independence. Okay, and this has led to this kind of situation, the kind of positive secularism by the Hindu rights. Okay. But in the conclusion, what I would like to say is that we should work together as members of the nation to promote religious tolerance and the elimination of religion from the popular politics will continue to engage the interests of all. So, it is an ongoing process which will need the intellectual and awareness of all the people of India to move forward in their effort to, as a nation, to move forward, eliminating this religious sectarianism and the aspect of religious intolerance, which is now hampering the growth of a modern developed nation in India. Thank you.
Dear friends, on that note, we would like to have some questions. Ma'am, the nature of secularism in India, if we can probably talk about secularism in Indian constitution, what do you think is the nature of secularism that India as a country proposes?
Secularism
in India, what is the nature of secularism in India?
Yeah, secularism as the constitution, what it lays down, it is equal respect for all religions, and that is the basis on which secularism has been adopted in India from the West. However, it also means relative separation of religion from politics. Relative because in some matters of the society and religion, the state can intervene in religious matters. In some matters, like if social evils exist and it needs state intervention in the form of laws protecting the rights and interests of a community, then the government can pass laws to that effect, and that's why it is it is relative separation, not total.
Okay, ma'am, in the previous session we were talking about Ambedkar and Nehru and their contribution to the constitution. What do you think, especially Nehru, contributed to the concept of secularism that in the constitution we talk about? What do you think is his major contribution to secularism?
Yeah, actually, Nehru and Ambedkar both were the leaders who actually framed the constitution, and the secular spirit of the constitution which existed right from the very beginning, from the time of the promulgation of the constitution, owes a lot to Nehru and also to Ambedkar. Okay, so Nehru was committed to the Western philosophy of liberalism, equality, democracy, freedom to all. So in that sense, he was very much particular about, of course he was aware of the religious tensions existing in India and multi-religious country like India, that was there, and of course the kind of partition the communalism which was happened after the partition, at the time of the partition in India, it had made him aware the problems which India faced, and therefore he was very much sure that the kind of assimilative policies, liberal policies, if we don't follow that, then it would lead to the division of the country, and no longer India as a nation, independent whole nation, would exist. It will cease to exist.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. On that note, dear friends, we would like to thank Ms. Nutinabita for coming to our show and delivering this wonderful lecture. And thank you, dear friends, for watching our show. Stay tuned and keep watching. Thank you.